Universal's Islands of Adventure is in one of the most interesting positions of any theme park in the world right now, because on one hand, this is still one of the best theme parks ever built. I do not think that is really up for debate. When you look at the lineup, the theming, the atmosphere, the variety, the attractions, the way the park is laid out, and the fact that you can step foot into Jurassic Park and go to Hogsmeade, to Marvel, to Seuss Landing, all in one giant loop, it is still one of Universal's strongest theme park achievements yet. But at the same time, Islands of Adventure might also be the Universal Orlando park that needs the most attention. And that sounds crazy, right? Because a park that is considered perfect needs the most work, but that's exactly what makes Islands of Adventure so fascinating right now. Because it's not a bad park, it's not a struggling park, it's not even a park that needs to be saved in any way. It's just a park that needs to see some sort of evolution. And I think Islands of Adventure is about to enter its Universal Studios Florida 2010s era. Because if you remember Universal Studios Florida about 10 or 15 years ago, that park had a lot of classics, a lot of aging attractions. Then slowly but surely, Universal started changing everything. Jaws became Diagon Alley, Back to the Future became the Simpsons ride, Twister became Race Through New York, Disaster became Fast Furious Supercharged, Kids Zone became DreamWorks Land, and now Rip Ride Rockit is becoming Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift in 2027. Whether you like every single one of these changes or not, Universal Studios Florida has been in a long transformation period for years. If you look at the park back in 2007 versus now, over the past 20 years, basically the entire park has changed. And I think we're about to see the exact same thing, but with Islands of Adventure. The difference is that Islands of Adventure is a much harder park to change. This park was built with a stronger identity. It was not just a studio park with sound stages and production theming. It was a full-blown, immersive fantasy adventure park from day one. Every island had its own atmosphere, its own color palette, its own sense of place, and that is why changing Islands of Adventure is very complicated. You cannot just slap a new ride into a building and call it a day. Every change has to fit the rhythm of the park. Every land has to feel worthy of being an actual island. And because the park is so beloved, every closure is going to come with a lot more emotion. But the truth is, Islands of Adventure is now over 25 years old, and in theme park years, that's the age where a lot of attractions start needing serious work. Some rides can last forever with constant maintenance upgrades, retracts, and refurbishments. I mean, we saw that with the Incredible Hulk, which basically had to be rebuilt to keep going. But eventually, every theme park hits a point where it has to decide what is worth preserving, and also have to decide what has simply reached the end of its life, because that's where Islands of Adventure is right now. And the first major domino is obviously Lost Continent. It was just announced that Lost Continent will be officially closing and shutting down in 2027. And this has been the strangest land in the park for years, because it's gorgeous. It has some of the best architecture Universal has ever done. It has this massive mythological scale, and it was truly the only actual island on the park that was based off an original concept. But in terms of actual attractions, it's been fading for a long time. Ever since they lost Merlinwood, that was already the sinking ship that started at Lost Continent. The 8th Voyage of Sinbad closed, Poseidon's Fury closed, the land just kept shrinking. And for a while, Mythos was basically the last major reason the area still felt alive. And this is a big deal. Now, Universal has not officially announced what is replacing it, but the rumors have been very loud for years. For a while, everyone, including myself, thought The Legends of Zelda made the most sense, but then Pokémon became the big rumored frontrunner. And honestly, if Pokémon is what ends up replacing the Lost Continent, that could be one of the biggest moves Universal has ever made. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, Pokemon isn't based off a book, like all the other lands in Islands of Adventure are based off of. And while yes, Pokemon is based off of a game series, here's the exception. Pokemon is the biggest intellectual property in the world. It's generational. It has kids, teenagers, adults, collectors, gamers, casual fans, hardcore fans, and people who've just been with the franchise for almost 30 years. It's one of the few brands that could actually justify replacing such a visually iconic area, and truly the only exception to breaking the book rule because of how large it is by a landslide. And the location does make a lot of sense in a way. Lost Continent sits perfectly in between Seuss Landing and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, so whatever goes there does really need to pull families, but it also needs to be big enough to handle adult interest. Pokemon does that perfectly. A Pokemon land could really give Islands of Adventure a true all ages anchor, not just a kids land, not just a thrill land, something that could have a major dark ride, interactive elements, food, merchandise, characters, kinetic energy, and a huge emotional connection. And if Universal does this right, it could be their next Hogsmeade level expansion. But the Lost Continent transformation is only the beginning, because when you really walk around Islands of Adventure land by land, almost every island has some kind of question mark attached to it. Jurassic Park right now is one of the most interesting examples. I love Jurassic Park at IOA. The land still has such a great atmosphere. You have the Discovery Center, you have Camp Jurassic, the sense that you are walking through this slightly dangerous prehistoric environment, and of course, Velocicoaster, arguably one of the greatest coasters on Earth. And the weird thing is, Islands of Adventure still has... And the weird thing is the fact that Islands of Adventure has preserved the Jurassic Park theme while Jurassic World has kind of been taking over a lot of the other parks, like Universal Hollywood and Universal Beijing. And I do not think that's a bad thing. I think keeping Jurassic Park in Islands of Adventure is very smart. Jurassic World is the newer brand, and sure, we have rides like Velocicoaster, but Jurassic Park has a timeless quality to it. It has that iconic John Williams music, it has those original entrance gates, has that classic visitor center aesthetic, and for a theme park land, the original Jurassic Park identity just works. The big question has always been, what's going on with River Adventure? And as it's currently been in this massive refurbishment and is still being listed as Jurassic Park River Adventure, it does not seem that Universal is rushing to turn Orlando's version into Jurassic World, and I highly respect that. What I would love to see is not a full Jurassic World overlay, but a serious modernization of the existing ride, keeping the Jurassic Park identity, but upgrading the figures, the show scenes, the lighting, the sound, and even the finale. The ride still has one of the best concepts for any water ride ever. You're supposed to be on a peaceful river tour, something goes wrong, the dinosaurs escape, and you suddenly are being pushed to a restricted area with the T-Rex at the top of a drop. I mean, it's perfect. Nothing is better than that. It does not need to become something completely different. It just needs to feel alive again. And that is kind of the overall theme with Islands of Adventure. Not everything needs to be replaced. Some things just need to be refreshed. And they are currently doing what I'm saying with River Adventure, which is so exciting to see. And another great example of this is Seuss Landing. Seuss Landing is not going anywhere, and nor should it. That land is still one of the most visually unique family areas in all of Orlando. It has no straight lines, bright colors everywhere, just wacky architecture, and a style that instantly separates it from the rest of the park. It also gives Islands of Adventure something the park really needs, a softer family zone that not every area needs to have some intense, heavy, thrill-loaded ride. Seuss Landing truly balances the park. However, I would be lying if I said this land is perfect. It needs repainting, it needs pavement work, it needs touch-ups, it needs to feel crisp again. And that honestly goes for a lot of Islands of Adventure. The park does not need to lose its identity, it just needs a polish pass, new paint, better lighting, refreshed pathways, updated effects, rebuilt facade, a renewed commitment to making every island feel as strong as when it did when the park opened. Speaking of, let's go to Toon Lagoon. This is where things get really interesting. I know Toon Lagoon has fans. I mean, the land's unique, Dudley Do-Right Ripsaw Falls and Popeye and Bluto's Bill Drap Barges are some of the wettest, funniest, most chaotic water rides in Orlando. But let's be honest, it's the weakest area in the park from an IP standpoint. Most guests do not have a strong connection to these characters anymore. Dudley Do-Right is not exactly pulling in the modern theme park crowd. Popeye's easily the most recognizable, but even that ride is not exactly a must-do for a lot of guests unless it's extremely hot outside. And that's the issue. Toon Lagoon has two major water rides in a park that already has a lot of other headliners, so when the weather is not perfect or when people do not want to get completely drenched, this land can feel dead. The bones of the land are good, the rides are fun, the setting is a lot of personality, but I feel like the IP has aged out of relevance. So what does Universal do? I think there's two options right now with Toon Lagoon that they are definitely trying to work out. Option one is keep the water rides, but just retheme the entire area. This is definitely the most realistic approach. Universal could preserve the ride systems, keep the capacity, and bring in a property with stronger modern appeal. DreamWorks is the obvious direction. Islands of Adventure currently does not really have DreamWorks representation other than those small meet and greet at the Lost Continent currently. So even though Universal Studios has DreamWorks Land and Epic Universe has Isle of Berk, maybe a Shrek Swamp area could be hilarious. A Kung Fu Panda Land could work visually. Even something like Madagascar could fit the water ride energy. There's a lot of flexibility there. There's also been a large rumor of Lord of the Rings somehow being integrated into the parks. And option two would be remove part of Toon Lagoon and add a completely new attraction when retheming the land. The old amphitheater space has been sitting there for years. That is valuable real estate. Universal could use that plot for a new indoor attraction, a family dark ride, a new show, or even a smaller roller coaster. Islands of Adventure does not necessarily need more thrill rides, but it could definitely use some more high-capacity, weather-protected, family-friendly experiences. And that is one thing Universal should focus on for the future of this park: capacity. Velocicoaster, Hagrid's, Forbidden Journey, and Spider-Man are all heavy hitters, but Islands of Adventure can easily feel overwhelmed when crowds are high. If Universal is going to replace or rebuild areas, they need to think beyond what just looks good on a poster. They need attraction that eats crowds. Indoor rides, shows, interactive walkthroughs, restaurants, kinetic spaces, things that spread people out instead of just creating another massive line. Then we get to the biggest question mark in the whole area, and that's Marvel Superhero Island. The land is iconic: the comic book city design, the giant cutouts, the music, the bright colors, the exaggerated buildings, the classic vintage Marvel energy. One of the most recognizable lands Universal has ever built, and it has two all-time great attractions. The Incredible Hulk coaster is still one of the defining coasters of Universal Orlando, and the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is still one of the greatest dark rides ever created. That's what makes Marvel so difficult, because from a guest experience perspective, the land still works, people still love it, the rides are still popular, Spider-Man is still incredible, Hulk still dominates the skyline. But from a business and future planning perspective, Marvel's complicated, because Disney owns Marvel. Their biggest competitor owns the rights, and while Universal still has the theme park rights to use certain Marvel characters in Orlando under the older agreement, that creates one of the strangest theme park situations in the world. Universal has a Marvel land at Islands of Adventure, while Disney cannot build a true Avengers Campus style land at Disney World with many of those same characters. So Marvel is both a strength and a limitation. Universal gets to keep a major superhero land away from Disney World, but Universal also cannot really treat Marvel like it is their own modern franchise. They cannot just freely build whatever new MCU style attraction they want. They are working with an older comic book version of the brand, and while that aesthetic is amazing, it does extremely limit long-term growth. So what happens? I really do not think Marvel is untouchable forever, and I think a lot of people need to get this in their heads. I know that sounds wild, because Spider-Man, it's a masterpiece, and Hulk, it's an icon, but if Universal is planning Islands of Adventure for the next 20 or 30 years, they have to ask a very real question. Do they want one of the most valuable areas in the park tied to a brand that they don't even own? That does not mean Marvel is leaving tomorrow. I definitely don't think it is, but in a 10-year or 15-year conversation, Marvel really does have to be discussed. And that brings us back to the bigger picture. The future of IOA is not about fixing a bad park, it's about preparing a legendary park for its next era. Epic Universe is now open. Universal Studios Florida has some major changes coming. Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift is coming, one of the greatest roller coasters that will probably ever exist. Fast and Furious Supercharged is closing. Thank God! DreamWorks Land is here. Universal is clearly not afraid to change its parks. And now Islands of Adventure is next in line. Lost Continent is the starting point. Whatever replaces it will probably set the tone for the next version of the park. And if it's Pokemon, then IOA gets one of the biggest franchises in the world. If it's Zelda, then the park gets a fantasy land that spiritually connects to what Lost Continent used to be. If it is something else entirely, then Universal has a chance to surprise everyone. But after that, I think the focus shifts to Toon Lagoon, Marvel, and park-wide refurbishments. Not every change has to be a demolition. Some of the best future moves might just be making the existing park feel new again. Keep Seuss Landing fresh, add more shade, improve food, update effects, use empty spaces, bring back entertainment, add capacity, make the park feel alive in every corner, because IOA is still such a special place. There are very few theme parks in the world where you can ride rides like this. It just needs this next chapter, and honestly, that is what makes it so exciting. Islands of Adventure is not declining, it is aging into a transformation. It is entering the phase where Universal has to make some big decisions. Some will definitely be controversial, some will probably make fans angry at first, but if Universal handles this park with the same ambition that created Hogsmeade, Velocicoaster, and Epic Universe, IOA could come out of this next decade stronger than ever. The park we know today is already one of the best theme parks in the world, but the Islands of Adventure of the future, that could be something even bigger. So I want to hear from you. What do you think Universal should do with Islands of Adventure? Should Lost Continent become Pokemon? Should Toon Lagoon finally get replaced? Should Marvel just stay forever, or is it time for Universal to start planning an exit strategy? Let me know in the comment section down below. I love reading and responding to every single comment. And with that, this is Hunt from Theme Park Hunting, and I will see you all later.